Once upon a time, in a land far from our own, there was a powerful king. While he ruled with a strong presence, he was fair to his people, and always did his best by them, showing mercy to those who were desperate and harshly judging only those who showed no remorse for their sins. Like all stories, however, it soon came to pass that another kingdom sought to dominate his land. While initially war was going well, a bitter betrayal almost cost the king everything. Desperate to save his people, he heeded old myths and went to a cave in the mountains surrounding his kingdom. There he called into the darkness, offering everything, even his very soul, for the strength to defeat the invaders and to save his people from slaughter. From the darkness came an answer. The answer came in the form of an embrace, wrapping the king in its deep shadows. It took the soul he offered, rendering his blood cold as the mountain peaks, and his skin hard as the stone. With these and innumerable more gifts, the king descended the mountain as the moon rose, and without seeking his army, sought out the invaders' camp, passing between shadows, unseen but not missed, as his mere presence sent shivers through the supposedly unmovable soldiers. The king searched in every tent until he found the neighboring ruler, a young emperor who, upon his father's death, sought to expand his lands. At first, the king tried to negotiate with the young man. There was no need for more spilled blood, but even as he spoke, he knew it was futile, because burning in the emperor's eyes was a madness that could not be reasoned with. Seeing what he thought to be an easy win in his campaign, the young emperor lunged at the king with a swift and deadly blade. He joined his men on the battlefield because he loved the blood. He loved how none could beat him, none fast enough, none strong enough. The emperor laughed as his blade struck true, the expression of surprise on the king's face exactly what the young man wanted to see. And yet, it was not. To his horror, the young emperor discovered his blade shattered. While the king's fine silk shirt was torn, his skin remained unmarked. I gave you an opportunity, and you chose to ignore my generosity. You and your men shall see no other dawn. With these damning words, the king used the gifts given to him by the darkness, and in that single night decimated the entire invading army, gorging himself on blood and reveling in the power as it built within him. The darkness had given him this great gift, and he reveled in it, lording his power and building more and more until no adversary stood in his way. And as he returned to his senses, the king was horrified to discover the true cost of his power. In his own madness, he had slaughtered his people, the very ones he had sold his soul to protect, now nothing more than empty husks. The grief tore at him. When something worse came to his mind, and he fled town to his castle, the blood calling to him smeared on the walls and floor, pooling into goblets, and staining once fine sheets. Frantically, the king searched every room of the castle, to the very last tower. Within he discovered, to his deepest regret, the body of his beloved. They had sworn to marry after the war. She begged him not to go to the mountain, had told him he would never return. And she had been right. As he stared at the twisting visage within her chamber mirror, he realized the king had died the moment that darkness had embraced him, and what stood in the tower cradling his beloved was a monster. His howl of anguish was so great, it shook the hearts of the people all around the world. The king knew his beloved was no quiet miss. She would not have fallen so easily, not even to him, he was sure. And so, cradling in his arms, he searched her chambers and found a journal. She had seen his sorrow at the betrayal, and knew he was driven to desperation. So, the day he went to the mountain, she went to his library, and sought forbidden books, magics long locked away, and she worked. If her beloved were to return, she would stand by his side and let the magic fade. But if a monster came, either the emperor or the husk of her beloved king, she would see that the kingdom was protected and that the king's true legacy lived on. Following the path she wrote in her journal, the king carried her to a place within her private gardens and found a powerful spell upon an old wooden shed. Breaking such magics was easy for him now, and so he did discover within the shed a space much larger than should be possible, and within his beloved's 3 handmaidens and every child in the kingdom. With the help of her handmaidens, the king buried his beloved among her dear flowers, and then, in the dark of the night, tirelessly rebuilt his kingdom, washing away the blood and laying to rest the bodies of his people. Days turned to months as he worked, letting the handmaidens and the children live comfortably in his castle, as he dug himself a hole in the dirt to hide from the rays of the sun. The burn, surely God's punishment for his transgressions. Once the town was rebuilt, he sought out villagers from outside the capital to come to the town and bring life back to it, to take in the children saved by the would-be queen, never once exposing himself as the king. Bidding the handmaidens keep his secret, he worked for years to rebuild what he had destroyed in his madness. He watched the children his beloved had given her life for grow and live good lives. He watched as they then went on to help the kingdom thrive, bearing their own children and returning life to his land. Certain his task was done, the king sequestered himself on the mountain, deep in the caves he had once gone to for power. He hid in their shadows and waited, emerging only to mourn the death of, first, each handmaiden, and then each child once they had grown old. As the last and youngest child, weathered with age, lay on her deathbed, she bade him to come to her, and, unable to deny her, he went to her side. With my death, the last lock will be undone. I know what you will do. We all knew. She told us, and her handmaidens reminded us when we came of age. She knew once your duty to us was finished, you would seek to end your existence. The old woman shifted, weak and trembling. Hand lifting, gnarled fingers curled around something that glittered in the moonlight. The creature, who had long since abandoned his moniker as king, reached out for what she offered and discovered, dropped in his palm, a fine silver chain, and upon it the ring he had gifted his beloved when they had made their promise. Upon my death, the seal on her soul will be lifted, and she will be reborn in this world. If you have truly returned, the last of us to survive was to give you this and tell you she would come. She will return to you, the old woman said, her voice strained as she smiled. Please know, you have been forgiven. Oh, what nonsense. There was no forgiveness. Well now, what have we here? A woman, alone at this time of night. Even in the modern era, this seems so desperately foolish. But never look a gift horse in the mouth, I suppose. Oh, forgive me. Did I startle you? I'm often told I'm too quiet for my own good. I do apologize. Allow me to help you collect your papers. It's only right, since I'm the one who startled you, my dear. Ah, this printout. Tell me, are you studying the legends of this kingdom? Ah, a writer. How fascinating. I do enjoy reading to pass the time. Is there anything you've written about that I may have read? Children's books. Well, I must admit, they aren't my usual fare. But I will say congratulations on being published. The industry is terribly difficult to break into, as I understand it. A storybook of legends? Of uncommon legends, even. How quaint. Tell me, is that why you're researching our land stories? To put one of our legends into this book? Oh, you have you? Which story did you put into your first book? Perhaps the legend of the woodland witch, the mire horse. Ah, no, don't tell me. I'm sure I have it. The Romance of the Three Princesses seems just right for a child storybook. The Shadow King's Tale. I'm surprised. That particular story is rare, even here in its own home country. But that's how many legends and stories go on. They grab hold and seep into your body and soul. It's quite late though, and while our country is rather safe, I would be remiss to let you walk alone at this late. No, it's no trouble at all. Perhaps you can tell me more of your books. Well, I would not push it if it truly makes you uncomfortable, my dear. However, please know my offer is made purely out of concern for your safety. Why do you look so nervous, my dear? You've gone rather pale, or perhaps it is these lights casting a pallid color on your skin. Do not flinch. You merely had some fluff on your cheek. Ah, now. No need to apologize. A young woman alone in a different country, late at night, with a man she doesn't know, standing so close. I'm sure it must be a little unnerving. Or thrilling. My, you don't need to deny it so strongly. You'll hurt my feelings. I was only teasing. Perhaps it doesn't translate well to another culture. No apologies either, my dear. I took no offense, as it was my joke. But I must say, you are very pretty when you blush like that. And I do mean that in the most sincere way. The way I speak. Yes, I imagine it is rather formal. A force of habit, I suppose. I was raised in a very formal household. It reflects in my tone and language. Ah, you're too kind. But thank you for such a compliment. Tell me, my dear, what are you doing out so late on your own? Ah, the library. I'm surprised you would bother. So many people would rather stay at home on laptops and use Google to find answers. Very true, very true. Many more local legends can probably only be found in books or be heard from storytellers, no matter the country. You smile so sweetly when you speak of books and stories. It warms my heart to see such passion. You blush again. Is it so hard to believe a compliment? A nerd? Well, perhaps. But is that so wrong? If it is something you enjoy, true passion, then what right has anyone to judge you? Besides, not everyone feels that way. I don't, and I only just met you. There, you see? You're just as charming as any woman who delights in fashion or finds the boardroom as her battlefield. I do not flatter as a rule. I only speak what I honestly feel. Flattery is tantamount to lying, and I find it distasteful. What a lovely little giggle. Such a sweet little thing. Will you look me in the eye? Just once, my dear. I'd like to see your face, not hidden by your hair. There we are. What lovely eyes you have. Do you think mine are lovely too? You can look as long as you like. There's nothing to fear, my dear. We're merely speaking of your stories, aren't we? Your wonderful stories, and the books you'll write. There you go. Just relax. You're perfectly safe. Yes, come step into my arms, my dear. I will not hurt you. In fact, you may even find pleasure in what comes next. You smell of your books, of printer ink, and pencil shavings. But there beneath it all is something so sweet. A soap? A shampoo? Perhaps a lotion? No matter, but it leaves the finest, faintest sweetness. I'd speak with you more, but I'm so terribly hungry, and you wouldn't let me walk you home. No worries, the spell I cast hides us from prying eyes, and deters anyone who might try to come into this alley. Now, my dear, tilt your head into my palm. Yes, good girl, my dear. My arms have you. Can't you feel how sturdy they are? I will not let you fall. Your neck, though smooth, so warm against my lips. No, nothing is wrong about this. It is natural. It is good. You'll be alright. I just need a little. Just enough to... What? Oh. No, something isn't right. How could you possibly break my thrall? You're only human. I could smell it. Oh. I'm going to do more than come near. You're coming with me. Don't waste your pretty voice. No one can hear you through my shield. Now hold on tight or I'll toss you over my shoulder as a burden. There now. Stop screaming. And, my dear? Fainted. Well, I suppose that gives me some time to figure out what it is that's so unique about you that you broke my thrall. Let me have a taste as we fly. Perhaps an answer lies inside of you. Ugh. This is impossible. My darling. My beloved. My queen?